All right. We good? We rolling? All right. Welcome back to another episode of the MuuvWell Podcast. It's a beautiful day today. It's going to be a fun day, and we have a lot going on at the MuuvWell HQ. But today we're going to take a step back and talk a little bit about fatherhood, parenthood, and training. Abby has a great agenda for today. She's always good. That is one thing about Abby. She prompts some good conversation. She keeps us on track. And I feel like we were just having a conversation offline about how we feel like that more people have just been candidly saying, hey, I listened to this episode, listen to that episode. And I think a lot of that is just a testament of like we're staying on track and we're not getting stuck on our purpose all day, every day. Because it's so easy to get tied into that stuff. Kevin caught that. I was waiting for him to catch it.
Cut his mic, Abby. Kevin's mic.
And why is this guy back on the podcast today?
People were
waiting.
That's what Logan said. People
they were
watching the podcast.
They
asked, where was Wade?
They were like, hey, the episode with Emily was great, but like, is there any way to get rid of Kevin and like pull Wade back in? Yeah. Quit talking about our purpose. No, that was just I didn't think Kevin's gonna catch it. I was like, oh, and now it's just gonna fly over his head, but he caught it. No,
I'm just mad I was not back in this chair.
That's
I'm
right.
Back to where I started. I thought I was moving up.
No.
Now you're feeling attacked again.
Like, but maybe I'm moving back towards your side of the
That's you're getting there, but you're tickling it, but not quite.
Some weeks.
I don't like that. Anyway, Abby. And we're back to Abby.
We're on time.
Well, anyways, first of all, I have to point out, I think that was the loudest Kevin has ever been on the podcast. Like, he was very passionate about Wade.
Kevin.
Anyways,
he likes the lead seat.
So, parenting, something I am not familiar with at this moment in time. However, hopefully in the future I will be. And so, whether you are a parent currently or are a far from that season of life, have lived the parent life, or are going to hopefully one day be a parent, I hope that this podcast can prepare you in whatever season of life you're in. And we're going to start out with something that I feel like a lot of people can relate to, which is, how do you balance being a parent, being a spouse for you all, a husband, and also having these like insane training goals or insane goals, period, whether you're listening to this and you're really into fitness or into something else. We all have personal aspirations, but for you all specifically, that fitness side of things, how do you prioritize both? And are there times where you have to sacrifice? And if so, how do you navigate that?
I think there's definitely sacrifice.
Yeah.
I think I really felt it this week, honestly. I just came off of a vacation with the family. It was, our spring break for my wife's schedule. And so we went to Austin, Texas and saw some of our really good friends. And while I was there, I only ran one time. My friend Andrew and I ran the first day after we got there. We went on like a 6.5 mile run. And it just shows like, so they have a daughter, we have our daughter, and it just shows like just your priorities change naturally. Like, and honestly, I didn't even feel bad about it until, I didn't realize I didn't run or really work out much until I got back. And I was like, oh, I didn't really do much. And I think that's just like maybe a natural sacrifice of just like, hey, being with your family and spending time with them and being present in the moment. And I'm really grateful for that. Because I really haven't beat myself up over it. I don't feel a way about it, even though I do have a lot of runs coming up. But my general fitness is obviously in a good place. But I think that when you're a parent, you kind of it's just kind of an evolution of how it looks. In the beginning, it was like you're still really heavy on it because, your kids are so little. It's like you feel like you can go do more because you can't do a whole lot for the baby yet. But as they get older, it's just like I think you just naturally fall into the rhythm of, well, I'm just being pulled more to this area. But I think what I've found as being a parent is you just have to put something on the calendar if you want to stick to your goals. Like that's just what has worked for me. So having MS run the US in June and then having Tunnel Hill 100 in November, it's just like having those on the calendar. I know, kind of like what you do at Pinhoti, Kevin. Where you're like, I know that 12 weeks out, I'm going to stick to my schedule. But up until then, I'm going to just keep some general fitness of 38 miles a week or whatever it was. Yeah. And so being able to like have something on the calendar has been really helpful for me. That way, that this day or this week, I have to get this amount of miles in, or this day I need to get this amount of miles in. And then I can just kind of shift accordingly because obviously first things first, I have to be a present husband and dad. Especially with our daughter being like a toddler now, she's just all over the place. And I think that has just naturally helped me kind of be okay with where I'm at. But I think putting something on the calendar has just been really big for me.
Yeah, I think me too. And I think I'm not trying to talk about purpose, but you do have to look at what your priorities are. And you just said, what's the most important thing to you right now? What did you just say?
In terms of
Just
earthly,
life.
yeah, being a present father and husband, yeah.
Right. And so I think if that's and you said earthly, and then obviously I think you're alluding to that you're Christian as well, and stuff. So I think it's understanding what your priorities are. If your priority is to be a professional runner, then that changes things. But if your priority is like what you just said, is basically the hierarchy, it sounds like, and I would probably say this is the same for me, is your relationship with God, your relationship with your spouse, and then your relationship with your kids.
Yeah.
I think everything else should be a tool to make you better at those three things. And I know for me, a lot of times I get out of balance there, and then all of a sudden the things that aren't really priorities become priorities, and then the things that really do matter start going, are rocky, I guess. And so I think I try to remind myself of that. I have not run in a week, which is crazy. Now I know people listening to this, that might sound to you all like, well, I haven't run in 6 years or whatever, or I haven't worked out in 4 months. But to us, I mean, if for me personally, and probably you and you, Wade, like working out has been a very consistent part of our lives for many, many years, or my whole life really. And it is hard to back off, but it makes it easier. Like you said, like if you understand your priorities, then it's not that big a deal if you have to sacrifice a little bit of running or working out or whatever, because it's for the better of your family. I think,
and what your goals are.
Yeah, I think for me it makes it a lot easier. That's kind of my way of thinking about it, is just understanding what I'm about, and then running is just a tool to make me better at those things.
Yeah,
I'm not running to be a pro runner. I am running to push myself, but I'm pushing myself because it makes me a better.
Yeah, well, we always say that too. Like whenever we do hard stuff, it's like it builds your character. It makes you a better dad and husband, just better person.
Like my sacrifice, I'll always sacrifice the fitness over like spending quality time with my family, or just find ways to incorporate my kids in what I'm doing. So if it was a long prescribed run or just like another run I would want to go on, if it's going to be me pushing the 2 kids in the stroller, running slower, not getting much out of it, but if Eliza asks to stop and run with me, that makes it worthwhile at the same time. But I would always rather sacrifice a day of lifting or a day of running to be able to spend more time with my kids. It's like that stuff is just so fleeting. I've probably been in a rut working out, and I know Kevin said he hadn't run in a week. I probably ran like 3 times in the last 2 weeks, but I've stayed consistent, either some sort of lifting or like riding a bike. 6 or 7 times within that. So like just trying to make sure I'm just staying consistent, at least just moving my body purposefully and not necessarily like training for a specific goal this time.
I think like you said too, having something on the calendar, like for me, I kind of know, like I just did a race a few weeks ago. Like I can take some time. Honestly, my body is like a little beat up and stuff from that. And it's like, okay, I want to do something bigger maybe later in the year, but I got time. Like, kind of, I think if you just push all the time, you are going to burn yourself out or get hurt. You know? And your family's going to get burnt out from it too.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the biggest thing, is like being able to, and really, I wouldn't even say it's like giving yourself grace at this point. I think it's just like being able to naturally fall into where you're at. And that's kind of what I've alluded to when we went on our vacation. Like I didn't ever feel, and this is the first for me, probably even since our daughter's been born, I never felt like I need to go run today. I haven't ran today. I haven't ran this week. I didn't feel that at all. And I just felt really present and like happy and excited in the moments that I was in and being in Austin, Texas, and just hanging out with friends and eating good food and everything else. So that was really helpful. But I think
a barbecue stain on your shirt?
No, but I'm surprised. I did get the meat sweats one night when we were there, though. Like I woke up at 3 a.m. with the meat sweats because we had Terry Blacks. We had a lot of good barbecue. But no, yeah, I think that it just like time and place for everything. And like you said, you've taken like a week off. But I think just as like being a parent and being married and just being busy, I think those are crucial. And I think when they happen naturally is when they're more beneficial, to be honest. Like if I'm like after my 50-mile run, I really wanted to like keep pushing and build to the next thing. And I made myself take the time off, and I was more stressed then than I am right now when it was just kind of naturally occurring. So I think it's really helpful because then it kind of gets you excited and rested and ready and rejuvenated for whatever the next goal is. Sounds like it's weird. We're all kind of like in the same, I wouldn't say rut. I would just say same place with the fitness, like just kind of like letting our foot off a little bit just to kind of be present and do other things. But it's been super helpful for me because I feel really like a lot of mental clarity and a lot of shifting things at work. I think it allows me some space to be present for that too. So it's been good.
I was going to touch on that a little bit. It seems at this table that you all are very, very goal driven. And it's more so like, oh, I need to ease off of the working out to prioritize my family because my goal is ultimately to be with family. What is that? Would you say that that's a fair assessment? We're all pretty,
I think so.
Yeah.
on that side of it. What would you say to the person listening that may, I want to be careful with the way that I word this, but may rely on that a little bit too much to where they don't prioritize their health, and that could also play somewhat of a role in how you show up as a father or as a parent and a spouse.
You said something good to a client, Abby, the other day that I thought was kind of cool. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like this person had a lot of priorities and stuff. Can you kind of summarize that? 'Cause I thought it was kind of cool.
So they're in charge of a lot at work and they're in charge of a lot at home, and they've got a lot going on in their life. And I was talking to them about, how do we take this mindset of I'm in charge of this at work, I'm in charge of this at home, like I've got to run these things, I've got to do these things, and how do we apply that to your health? Because that is also something that you're working on. That's also something that's a project for you and that you need to prioritize in order to be the best version of yourself and to show up, because that is just as important. Like if we're not pouring into ourselves as much as we're pouring out, we're going to crash and burn, and we're not going to be able to do anything to the best of our ability. So to be able to apply that this is another project kind of mindset, I'm in charge of this kind of mindset to your health, I feel like can really help you compartmentalize and also kind of structure your days a little bit differently in a positive way.
Yeah. I feel like it kind of goes back to the saying, your health is your wealth to me, because you could have all the crazy financial acumen in the world. You could have the world's best family, but if you don't have the health and the ability to spend time with them, to be able to go out and do things with them, or like myself, I have a lot of family history of cardiovascular disease. I've had a lot of families die in their 40s from heart attacks or mid 50s. So like my health, like I have to take it pretty serious because I know my family history is kind of stacked up against me. So I also see it in that stance. Like if you're not making your health a priority, you're really not taking the time you're spending with your family as a priority too, because you're taking away those precious years of your life as well.
I think too, I think for us, like, I think we recognize like probably what we're pushing for is more performance rather than just health, and I think, there's ways you can really be creative with your family and stuff. So I haven't run a week, but we've been out in the yard doing yard work together and doing stuff. So we've been very active. And so I think what I'd say to that person, you might not have enough time or whatever, but where are you spending your time? Because I think typically people have time to be active and being healthy. Like you don't have to go out for a run to be active and healthy. 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week is what the American College of Sports Medicine recommends. And you can get that in a variety of ways. And I think, what are you doing with your family to spend time together? Are you watching TV, or are you going on a hike? We went on several hikes this week. The weather was nice and stuff like that. And I think just echoing what you said, and I think you kind of answered the question perfectly, Abby. It's like, it's your health has got to be a priority too. And if you want to be there for your family, you have to take care of yourself. I feel that, seems to be a common theme with clients that we work with, and just, being in a relationship with my wife and watching her as a mother. I feel that mothers a lot of times have a hard time giving themselves time. They feel a lot of guilt from that. I know my wife does. And it seems to be a pretty common theme with our spouses and other
definitely
females I talk to. And I just know, and I think my wife finally kind of came to that realization. It's like, I've got to do something for myself, or I'm going to be just so depleted for my kids and for me too, and so for her, that's guitar. Like she loves playing guitar, and that's a not necessarily physical activity, but it's still definitely checking the wellness bucket.
It's stimulating.
Yeah, it's intellectual wellness, it's creativity, it's pushing her in a out of her comfort zone and stuff like that. And I think that there's a lot of freedom and a lot of wellness that can be found in that as well. So I think you're just looking for those opportunities is super important.
I think you nailed it. Like we have our block in our neighborhood is exactly a half mile. So a lot of times, I mean, if you can break it down that way, you can be like, let's do a loop. That's what we always say. Let's go do a loop. And that's a half a mile walk. And, when you're walking and stopping with the dog and whatever, that'll take you 15 minutes or whatever it is. And that's half of the 30-minute window, like you mentioned. And then especially as it gets nice outside, sometimes you just have to force yourself. Like, let's just get outside and then we'll just walk and we'll just make it happen. Or even like our daughter loves running around the backyard right now for whatever reason, like not even playing on our swing set, just literally walking laps. And so just being able to get outside and do something. I mean, I think we're bad. Not, I wouldn't say bad, but we're notorious for saying like, oh yeah, like we usually go on a run for this long or do this for this long. And it seems intense, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be more reserved. But going back to this is a little bit getting off topic, but going back to the partner thing, I think my wife has really realized that lately. Like Emily has really acknowledged how important it is and how beneficial it is for her to do something physical. And she just I'd say like 6 months ago, she has a membership at a new gym that opened up here in Bowling Green, and she loves it. And she always makes the joke and will send me like pictures and be like, I hate whenever my husband's right about like working out and how it makes you feel afterwards, because usually like especially on the weekend mornings, I'll be like, go work out and get a coffee and then come home and I'll hang out with our dog and our daughter, and she'll go work out and she'll come home and she was like, I do feel so much better. Like it's weird. She was like, I hate that you're right about this, but it really is. Like if you do it consistently, like even 2 to 3 days a week of going to like work out, like something a little bit more intense, you just naturally feel better. And it's crazy the difference that it'll make.
So we live in a very tech driven world, and you guys talked about like getting outside with your kids and, getting movement with your kids. But it seems as though the world is only heading in a more stationary kind of way of life. So how does one raise their kids to be active and be active as a family in a very tech-driven world where, especially like if our kids are acting up or our kids are whatever, we hand them a screen like that. This is what is kind of like the norm. How are we going to implement activity and the importance of it with being stable?
Take their TVs away.
Yeah, like I put it in that. I think it starts with you, right? Like, I mean, if you want your kids to not be spending a lot of time on a screen, you need to look at yourself and what are you doing? If they see you scrolling all the time, what do you think they're going to do?
Yeah.
And so I think it starts with yourself. I think you got to spend a lot of time being intentional with yourself to not be kind of sucked into devices and setting the example. I mean, kids adapt really quick. And like sometimes our kids will be like, I don't want to go for a hike. I don't want to do this. But as soon as we get them out there, then they're having a blast, and I think, but it does take extra work as a parent, and you got to be intentional with that. I think setting some boundaries on all those devices is important, or limiting the access is important. We're a pretty low tech family. We don't have a lot of stuff for them to use, and again, my wife's really good about understanding that same thing, like technology is a tool, and that should be a tool for learning and different stuff. It's not a tool for just consuming,
Yeah.
So we're not anti-technology. I mean, there's some great stuff with technology, but I think you've got to just remember it's a tool. I
think with my wife and I, we try to sit together and determine like what sort of family do we want to be and where are we spending our time. That tells our kids what our priorities are. So we really want to make it a priority for our kids to spend a lot of time outside. So we're pushing for them to get outside. We're not making a priority for what's the newest TV show on. Is our kids up to date and be able to converse that with other 4-year-olds? Like, I mean, it's just crazy. So Janae is very good about just making sure our family's priorities stay in check. And one of them obviously is spending a lot of time outdoors. I think we're almost to eclipse the 200 hours outside already this year with our kids. And like Kevin had mentioned, like we're pretty low tech. I mean, me and Janae both have a phone. I have a work computer. We don't have a TV anymore. We got rid of that this year just because it's so easy to put your kid in front of the TV to distract them, when in actuality, if you just let your kids get outdoors, they need to be bored. And then eventually they become more creative and entertain themselves longer than they would in front of a TV consuming. So we've seen a big shift in our kids just taking the TV away and allowing them to spend more time outdoors. But like Kevin said, we're the ones modeling that for our kids. And so I think that's what is awesome yet scary as a parent, right? So like what we're modeling and what we're teaching our kids is a priority to us is ultimately going to be a priority to them. So we just want to make sure it's nice, healthy habits that will hopefully be able to carry them.
And it's kind of a priority like the rest of their life, it sticks. I mean, what they're learning now is something that they're going to value and think is important forever. This past weekend, again, weather was nice, and same thing. I did put the TV up. My kids were not happy about it, but I put the TV up.
I thought I heard some screaming.
I did not communicate well about
town.
all this and everything, so I put it in the attic. And of course, I didn't explain how long it was going to be up there. So my oldest was like freaking out. She thought it was gone forever. So a big parenting fail there. But the win was they did get outside. So they were out there for hours, and I look out, and my oldest is 9. There's smoke coming from the backyard on Saturday, and she has gotten all these bricks. They had a wagon. They were loading this wagon up with bricks, and she made a kiln for pottery.
Yeah.
So,
I saw this. I saw Amanda talk
she
about
made this like oven basically, and found like a piece of wire, put that there, and they had Asher making mud pies, and they stuck it in there, and then she makes a fire underneath, and they're heating up this mud trying to make pottery.
That's so funny.
So, but it was cool. I mean, like they figure out stuff to do.
Yeah.
If not, your kids would have been on YouTube watching other kids.
Yes.
And like,
Yeah.
I mean, it just gives their creativity back.
Yeah. I think it's obviously a family to family basis, but you have to be intentional in order to do it. Cause it's really, I think we found ourselves feeling really guilty in the winter time when it was cold and being like, what else are we doing? Which Leah is just now to the age where she's like a toddler and running around and wanting, like, she is obsessed with being outside, which is great for us. But in the winter, it's really hard because it's like, what else do you do with them besides, they eventually get bored with whatever they're doing inside.
Yeah.
And so we felt like she watched Wicked 100 times. She had watched the 1950s Sleeping Beauty 100 times. And we're like, okay, like, let's play with other stuff. And she would get mad. But I think what you figure out when they're so little is like, they're mad for 10 minutes. And then it's like, okay, they moved on, And so when we're like, our biggest thing was like, hey, the witch went to sleep. The princess went to sleep. She's taking a nap. She's going to sleep. Let's play with our kitchen. Let's play with our blocks. But it does make it easier. I think it's big to like take advantage of while it's nice outside, because like I said, our daughter, she just loves walking laps. And we're just really strategic about if the TV is on, like, it's not something that's like stimulating for her. Like it's Good Morning America in the mornings, or it's just like the news in the evening, or Survivor, which, hey, she's going to love Survivor. But no, I think it's the same thing. It's just like, forcing yourselves to get outside. And what's cool too is I'm just naturally on my phone a lot, but it's funny, as it's gotten warmer, my screen time has literally docked like 1 to 2 hours a week. Cause it sends you, like, Apple sends you an automated, like, your weekly screen time report. And it's
like 15 to 14 or something.
no. And it's docked like 2 hours. Like, it has gone down tremendously. And I think it's just being outside a lot more. And it's cool to see too, cause it's becoming mindless. And I think that's this is getting off topic, but it's frustrating when you realize that you're in the moment and you step back and like, well, I've been really in the moment lately. And then, those times when you're trying to be in the moment and you can't be, but I've felt a lot of that lately, where my phone has just been face down or in the other room and I don't even worry about it. And I'm being really present with whatever it is going on. And I think, like, just getting outside makes you do that just subconsciously. The more you're outside, then the less you're going to worry about the TV and your phone and all that stuff.
Okay, so my next question is less kids, more spouse. But especially this might tap into like your pre-kids phase of life.
Do you guys remember that? I do. I don't know if you guys.
Were there times where you had to like navigate conflict between you and your wives, when like there was a time you wanted to train, or there was a time when you wanted to put in that extra energy and it like wasn't necessarily maybe the best option or the most like time effective option? Or like, how do you navigate just, y'all two as a couple, and hey, I do want to pour this time into it, especially in that just you two marriage life before kids.
So pre-kids?
Well, it can be
Yeah, I
pre-kids,
think so.
or it can be now, but I feel like more of the time sensitivity when you
Before.
have kids is kind of like
It's
you
different.
just sacrifice it and you just
Yeah.
put the kids. But I feel like on an adult to adult basis, there is a little bit more of like well, let's talk about this and
Mhm.
let's,
We used
try
to just train together. Like me and Janae would do a lot of our running together
She'd beat 'em.
beforehand, because
Yeah, Janae was smoke
That's
Wade.
why I had to try to get fast, and I learned that I'm still slow because Janae was smoking.
They
me all
eventually
night.
started overpowering.
Overpowering.
Eventually, I just overpowered her, and here we are now.
I wonder how different these answers would be if just our
If-
wives answered it versus us answering right now. By the
we
way,
need a wife
we totally should.
episode. where
Yeah,
they
we
come in
should.
and fact check.
And
everything we say.
we'll sit out. Like, Abby just asked them questions. Like, here's some stuff that I've asked them.
that would actually be insane. Like, I
We
ask
should.
all the same questions that
Ooh.
I ask you, and then
That'd
we
be
like
fun.
see what the
Yeah,
answers
do like a little
are.
20-minute segment each.
That sounds really scary.
It's
Let's table that
terrifying.
for next quarter.
Wade's like, yeah,
goal.
we'll talk about
We'll
that,
figure
yeah.
out some other time. But no, Janae actually signed up and ran to half before I ever did, like even getting into running. So after that, I didn't want her to keep running by herself and putting in all these mileages without me. So we started running together before we had kids. And I didn't really train for anything huge, honestly, until my daughter was born. So I guess I kind of took the reverse steps of what I probably should have taken. So, but now she's been just awesome, working with me on whatever my goals are. You just got to be communicative over it. Where I feel like a lot of couples would fail on that is just lack of communication. So I think just making sure you're communicating your goals and working through it together is huge.
We didn't train together. I mean, it started running a couple years ago, but for me, Amanda loves to sleep in. I'm a morning person, so that was really easy before kids. And it was just like, well, I'll just get up early and go. You know, I used to wait, and I'd be like on a Saturday, it'd be like 2:00. Like, I think I'm gonna go to Mammoth Cave and run, be gone all day. And I realized like that doesn't work. But I love getting up early. So I would go in the morning early. She'd sleep in on the weekends. It was super easy. Now what's hard is our kids wake up early on the weekends, and she's, I try to give her a day that she can sleep in a little bit longer. So that's been a little tougher. So my runs just get earlier and earlier, or it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Sometimes I just can't go. Like if it's 5 a.m. about to walk out of the house, one of the kids wake up, I'm going to stop and try to get them back to sleep. If I can't, I'm just there. But it's everything's communication, isn't it? I mean, with all of it.
Yeah. I suck so bad at it because I continue to fall into bad habits with that sometimes. But yeah, it's just all communicating with your spouse.
Yeah. It was, I mean, obviously it was, in comparison to having kids, it was really, really easy before. And even in the moment, like it felt really easy because I think a lot of it too, whenever, like for me and Emily specifically, whenever I was training for things, it was typically centered around a race, which at the time was in cool, different places. And so I think, the training obviously was a little bit different, but the actual race, like what I was getting ready for, kind of turned into like a little trip for us, which was nice. But yeah, I think it was just communicating and being like, hey, this weekend I have X amount of miles. So like, what's our plan this weekend? Whereas now it's very much like sporadic. And what are we doing this weekend again? And it's like a Wednesday. It's like, oh yeah, we're doing this. Well, I was going to run. That's okay. We'll figure it out. I'll do it another day.
That's okay.
Now looking back, I'm acting like it was so easy, but I remember multiple times where I'd be like, we had to go do something and I couldn't run and I've been freaking out. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all my fitness. I did all this training and all that kind of stuff. So I do remember in the moment kind of feeling that way. Now I think I'm a little,
it feels lighter now.
It's like, okay, now I can just adapt and whatever. But I do remember I was much more like rigorous and structured, and I would like try to follow a program. Now I have kind of a loose outline of what I do.
Yeah, they probably appreciate it more now, honestly.
Yeah, we probably had more arguments about running and stuff back then, actually, because I was probably more self-focused than I am now.
Right.
Where do you think and how do you think that mental shift happened? Like, what do you think was the catalyst for that shift of like, oh, I was so rigorous and now I'm not as much?
I don't think mine was I think mine was just an evolution, honestly. Like, I mean, I think harder conversations happened once our daughter was born with my wife and I, like just more communication, like in a different way. Like it was more straightforward. Kind of like what Emily talked about in the podcast last week was like, I feel this way because you didn't stay home or you went and did this or whatever. And I think just understanding each other more was maybe more the I wouldn't even say catalyst, just the evolution for me, which is like more communication. I realized like my actions, like, okay, I need to take a step back because I want to be, Emily and I always say like to be a good parent, it's going to be hard. Like if it feels really hard, it's because you are being a good parent and you're trying to be a good parent. And if it were easy, you would just step away all the time. You would leave them with your partner or if you have a babysitter or whatever it is. Generally, not always, obviously, and I think that's what I've realized was that just like over time I've learned that like the sacrifices I make is just to be in turn it helps me be a better husband and a better dad.
Yeah, I think you said evolution. I think for me it's just getting a little older and wiser too, and realizing these things don't matter that much, and realizing maybe giving up on the dream that I'm going to be a professional runner. Maybe I don't know, but no, I think as you just age, I mean, with age does come some wisdom a little bit. Age does not mean you're going to be wise. I know a lot of people that are 70 years old that are not wise at all, like, and they're still making really stupid decisions. But I think if you're intentional and you spend a lot of time in prayer, and then if your goal shifts from trying to be more sacrificial than self-focused, then it becomes a lot easier. And I think for me, that's something you have to practice over time. Like you can't just all of a sudden become sacrificial. It takes effort and work and practice. And, I think I've been married almost 15 years. I have 4 kids, and I've just learned a little bit along the way of okay, yeah, maybe this is going to hurt my race performance, or maybe this is but ultimately my priority is this. And it becomes easier and easier especially as your kids grow up and stuff too. You realize like how important that relationship is and how fast it goes. I mean, my daughter's almost 10 and it just goes really, really quick. It's like, gosh, she's, the same amount of time that she's been alive, just double that, and she'll be in college. She'll be out of the house.
So I think there was a
Goes
stat I
quick.
saw. It was like by age, it was either 16 or 17. You spent, it's like over 75%
Yeah.
of the time you're ever going to spend with your kid.
Yeah.
So like these are the times where we get to spend a lot of the time with our kids, and and it's an easy sacrifice. If I don't run more than 5 miles this week, I could care less. But if you're going to spend the formative years with your kids, it's just easy. But like Kevin said, it's just a lot of wisdom over time. And we've made a lot of mistakes, but we're actually learning from those mistakes, which hopefully makes us to be a little bit more wise.
Have you seen any kind of overflow or inspiration on your kids from how active you are as parents? And like, how have you seen that play into their interests or who they're becoming today?
Yeah.
A keen interest in running. She'll always ask to go run laps with me in our front yard. So that's cool to see. She's also gotten really interested in riding her balance bike here lately, and she can fly on that thing, which is also cool because she's becoming more riskier. She used to be so careful, but now she is like daring to go down big hills and not scared. Well, still kind of scared, but like you can see her like
It's growth.
planning in the mind, like, am I safe? Am I not? And like we just keep encouraging her that she's safe. She wasn't wearing helmets, so she's probably not that safe. I need to work on that. Dog's cheered up. But then other than that, just asking to go outside now versus just staying inside and watching TV along those lines, just because they can't watch the TV anymore. So it's kind of nice. But their interests are starting to evolve, like you said, either just a more of an active lifestyle, just being outside, getting creative. But then more specifically in more of the running aspect for her, especially
With the weather warming up, like Everly, my 5-year-old, just keeps asking to go camping. Like they
That's
love
cool.
camping, because we've camped.
That's so specific too. They don't know what camping is unless you go.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
super. Yeah, that's cool.
So that they're all like they were all planning the camper this week and trying to get it ready to go on a camping. Like we don't have anything scheduled for a while, but they were just so excited to do
everything's
that.
open now. It's after April.
Yeah, I know.
Let's go and get something on.
We need to
the
go.
books.
We need to go. But they love camping. I think they would live in a camper over a house. They just love being outside and stuff.
Downsize.
Yeah, time to sell me your house for cheap.
I tell
man.
you what, our camper, we're kind of outgrowing our camper, but no, they love that, and they love being in nature. They love being creative, and there is from my wife's early childhood educator, and there's so much that goes with exposing your children to nature at a young age, and how that later on in life helps them be creative and all those kind of things. And so, I see it all the time. I see my daughter does they do cross country. My 5-year-old's going to do it this year, but they all love running. Same thing. They all love pushing themselves. They understand what it looks like, especially from, I think, watching the ultra marathon that we put on every year, seeing people seeing you, Abby, Ava really looked up to you last year, seeing you push yourself. And I think I may have said this on a podcast, but I've told you one of her little friends wrote Bible verses on her leg after the race to copy you. It was cool. But seeing cool. For them to see people, expose them to people that are really pushing themselves hard is really powerful. And I always try to make sure that I do that. My dad did that with me. I was around, major league athletes at a young age. I was in the Cubs locker room as a 5-year-old, hanging out with Rafael Palmeiro and those guys. I remember seeing Cal Ripken in the locker room with the Orioles and talking to them. And it was just like, wow, there's something different about these people. Why is it different? And just kind of seeing how they handle themselves, carry themselves. So I think, exposing your children to the outdoors and activities is super important, but also letting them see other great people that are pushing themselves. And like my daughter's hanging out with Navy SEALs, at our race, and just seeing how those people operate. Like that's really special. And so, I think my job as a parent is to lead them well, be a good example, but also expose them to greatness. And that could be people, it could be, a bunch of different ways, but let them see that and understand what that looks like and be able to recognize that. And hopefully they try to emulate that, but also when they start making choices on, here's a great example. We were behind some people on campus this weekend that were partying in the back of a truck, open alcoholic beverages, throwing them out the back of the truck and everything.
I'm sorry you saw me. I didn't think you saw me.
There's 5 guys in the back of this truck. Just, it was pretty bad. And I was like, Ava, that might look fun, maybe, or like those people are not going to succeed in life. Like
Yeah.
these people are making some horrible choices,
Yeah.
and that's what really bad choices look like. And you also know what really good choices look like. And so you need to choose. One day they're going to have to choose. So expose them to that's important.
Yeah. I think Leah's so young right now still, but you can start to see it. She'll be 2 in July. And me and Emily always say she mimics a lot right now. So I think it also holds us accountable and like the words we choose and the things that we do. But I think the biggest thing I've seen is her wanting to be in her stroller outside. Like she always wants to go walk. Like when we get home, we have her jogger folded up right by the front door and we just keep it right there against the wall because we're always outside now. And when we get home, we walk in and she's like hitting it. She's like, this, outside, outside. Like she wants to go outside. And I've ran with her a couple times in it since it started to warm up, but she just wants to go outside and walk and just like look around. And then usually about 15 minutes in, she's like out. Like she wants out of the jogger and wants to be able to walk around. I'm like, well, let's get home first and we'll go into the backyard. So she just wants to be outside. And I think that's where we're starting to see it. As I always make the joke that Emily's a lizard. Like she could just lay in the sun all day and bake. So she loves being outside. I love just moving my body. And I think Leah is like starting to see that. I think her being a summer baby too, like she'll be like a year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, like right in the middle of summer every year. And so like her birthday parties and all the trips that we do will likely be around that, just being outside and being active. But yeah, it's been fun to like see her mimic and like constantly out. Like it'll be like, it warms up and then it gets cold in Kentucky and she still wants to go outside and she doesn't realize looking through the door that it's 40 degrees outside. And we're like, well, let's let it warm up throughout the day. So I think just seeing her like want to be outside because she sees us outside is just so cool. And that's like the start of, I think, our actions.
Planting seeds.
Yeah, planting seeds for her. So
That is wild how like instinctually as children, it's like Leah wants to be outside. And then somewhere along the line, life happens and we get screens introduced into our life. And then all of a sudden we start wanting to go towards that. And it is from someone who wants to have a pretty active family one day. It is nice to hear like, okay, how you start is how they're going to develop. And I also think too, like there is something to the fact that we were created from the earth. Like obviously we want to be in our surroundings that we were made from. And there's a lot of crossover with fitness and being outside. And so I definitely think being fit can tie you to, your spiritual life. For me, like running helps me feel so connected with God, but it's also because I am outside. I am in like what the Lord created. I was created from dirt. Like it all kind of encompasses one another. And so just hearing you say like your daughter, who's a child, a little baby, is like outside, like she knows, like we just have something inside of us that knows that kind of thing. Which
It's really interesting too. Like when we go. So my daughter Ava, we've been to Florida every year of her life in a tent or a camper. So like she was 6 months old. We spent a week in a tent in Florida. And the first year of her life, she spent 3 weeks total in a tent. And it's funny how they sleep. Like when we go camp, like they sleep better at night out there, even in a tent. They sleep better.
Awesome.
They're more well behaved. Like it's just something clicks naturally when they're in nature. And me too. Like now our camper's really tight, so we're all on top of each other. But I feel, even if I don't sleep good, I still feel more rested. It's very odd, but it's because I'm just out there. I mean, for a week straight, like in nature, and it's something about it. It like you said, Abby. I mean, we're made to be out there. We're not made to be indoors. We're not made to stare at screens. It's not, for thousands of years, it's not what we did, so.
Well, funny, I noticed it this week whenever we were on our trip. I think it's easy to just be like, oh, they're so worn out, they just sleep so good. But like on this trip in Austin, the weather was 80 to 90 degrees every single day. So we were out by the pool. We were out. We walked around Lady Bird Lake. Like we were just outside for probably 60% of the time we were there, and that's counting us sleeping. And she slept so much better. It's like she's in a totally different environment. The pack and play she slept in was like smaller than her bed, but she slept way better. Like she slept through until like 7:30 or 8 a.m. every single day we were there, which is big.
Think about like the whole sleep cycle stuff. That'd be a good talk for Stephanie to talk about on here, our dietitian. But just something about being outside, triggers this natural rhythm in your body. You're going to sleep better and all that kind of stuff too.
We think about when you have like a boat day with friends, or you're out and when you like that night, you sleep so much better, and I think it's just being outside, being in the sun, you just get so much being out there. But yeah, I think this is like it's like tying our kids into this makes it a lot easier to digest it, because it's really easy to just think about our personal perspective. But when you watch like little humans, probably with Ava especially, like she's getting older, and I keep like Amanda posted on Facebook about her little kiln she made, and in my head I'm like, how the heck does she?
I didn't even know what that was.
That's crazy. Like the fact that
Kevin was in there
was,
Googling on his phone.
I was like, what is a kiln?
he's like, hey, what is a kiln? No, but the fact that she knew to like put those pieces together, like, I don't know, just seeing kids outside and watching their little brain. Like at one point we were like that, but I think it's easy to just think about like short term with us as adults, like the last 2 to 4 years, and think about our experiences there. But like as kids, we were doing things that our kids are doing now. And so it's really cool to see the correlation of what we do and how they mimic it, or what they see us do and they want to do that. Yeah, you know, obviously kids want screens. Like you said, Ava was upset that you were taking the TV to the attic, but at the end of the day, like when they're outside, they're just as probably more happy when they're outside doing those things too. But yeah, I think it just, I think kind of painting the picture of like being a parent and doing fitness and taking care of yourself. I think it's just an ongoing evolution.
Yes.
Like how it felt when my daughter was first born compared to now was totally different. I'm a lot more, not all the time, but generally I think I'm more at peace with the weeks that I don't have comparing the weeks that I have 50 miles of running compared to the weeks that I have 10 or even 0. And it's just like you learn to just deal with it.
And everything's a season of life, you know.
100%,
And I've started realizing that. And it's like, you know what? When I'm in my 50s, I probably can get more intense with fitness. You know? And hopefully I have the physical abilities to do it by then. And you know, that's my plan. It's like maybe I have to back off a little bit when I'm younger, and that's okay. You know, and then I can get more focused on training and things like that when they get a little bit older. And,
yeah.
You know, it is what it is. And that gives me comfort and peace. And I've said on the podcast too, like my goal, we're saying it right before this, 2062, I want to run a 100-mile race.
What day? June what?
June 24th, 2062. And I'll be 75 years old, you know, and like, that gives me a lot of comfort of like, okay, yeah, this is like the long game. I'm training to be fit and have a good health span. Not just a long lifespan. I want to be able to do these things when I'm older, and I want to be the old guy that goes out and runs and all that kind of stuff, you know. And so if I just kill myself now and have all these injuries, maybe I perform really well and I kill myself, it's not really going to pay off, you know, for what I really want ultimately. Yeah,
and I think it's a good, like how you phrase that is a good reminder to like, you know, take care of yourself now. That way, when your kids are grown, not that we're wishing that, oh, I can't wait for my kids to be grown, but when they are, then you can do the more exciting, like big races or big traveling or whatever your goals are.
Better yet, maybe I'll be able to do them with my kids.
Well, that's the thing I told Ava. Really so the other day we were running on a trail, and I said, Ava, June 24, 2062, you're going to be pacing me at this race. And I already told her how she's going to be 35, I think. I was like, no, she'll be older than that. I don't know. She'll be older than that. But I was like, I want you to pace me. So she knows in her head that she is going to pace me when I'm 75.
Yeah. So it's so cool, you know, and I think we could go on forever about this, but I think that is a way to like think about like the actions or the things that we do right now and like watch how your kids mimic that. And I think there is a little bit of conviction with it. Like whenever we're inside, I mentioned during the winter when we're inside a lot more, like Emily and I definitely feel the conviction of we feel bad that I feel like all she's done today is like play for a little bit and then she'll like go to the TV, play for a little bit and go to the TV. And I think feeling that is good. And like don't feel guilty about it, but just like make a change. Be like, okay, well, let's turn the TV off today and let's just go outside. And I think that's what was so cool about the trip we just took, was it gave us that realization again of how much fun it is to just take our kids outside and like just let her go play. And she does sleep better and her behaviors are better. And she fusses when we bring her in. We're like, hey, it's 7:30. Like we got to get ready to start winding down and go to bed tonight. But yeah, I think it's just like feel that conviction and just like make the changes, you know. I think and that's okay. And that's the point of like changing your habits, is to make a change in your life. So hopefully from today you can gather a little bit of that. And again, we're not perfect every day in doing these things. Our kids aren't outside every second of every day. But I think just like generally just kind of changing those habits and developing those family values and developing the family habits of, hey, we're going to go outside and play instead of turning the TV on today. And I think the biggest thing is just like understanding that the evolution of being a parent and how you're not even just fitness, but I think your just perspective journey is going to change and how it looks is really important too, just to have that perspective. So hopefully you guys found a lot out of that today and took something away, sparked some thoughts, sparked some conversation. If you guys want to listen to more, we had a really good episode last week. All of our episodes up to this are great.
The one last week, Wade wasn't on. It was really good.
It was really good that Wade was off the mic. Really, really good. I think that'll be our best one.
I think I'm going to spin off and do my own podcast.
Yeah, the Dub podcast.
It'll be me and Abby.
Abby's going to produce it. Okay.
Just me and Abby,
yeah. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next week.